George Bliss, who he was diagnosed as well, and just this past week had surgery.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. It kind of like sneaks up on you, and if you let it linger, it can be devastating results, and we certainly don't want that to happen.
And with the pandemic, people are probably delaying routine exams, so don't do that.
So I do want to say, you talk about PSA, public service announcement. I do want to tell all men out there, I think everyone needs to get a yearly checkup. Yeah. Everyone needs to get a yearly checkup, but in particular, men, you need to go out and get your yearly checkup. And in particular,
yeah,
African-American men,
yeah,
Hispanic men, Latino, get checked up every single year. Get your health checked up. Go get your doctor. If the doctor has to poke you, let him poke you, because it beats the alternative. And I know in the black community, the brown community, many men ages 30, 40, 50 and above are afraid, or they're afraid. They're afraid to go to the doctors to get checked up. And you got to get an annual health checkup. You have to do it. But the scary thing about it is the fact that a lot of black and brown men above the age of 40, 50 plus, they feel, hey, I feel okay. I'm okay. I don't have to go to the doctor. And I have too many friends that I've gone to, their funerals and said goodbye to them too soon, for the simple fact that they ignored the warning signs, felt that they were okay, and then the next thing you know, they're no longer here with us. So I'm telling you, as much as, and that's the one thing that I have about this vaccine, and we're hoping for an opportunity to get a chance to talk to Congressman Danny Davis, who had an event a couple of days ago in the Austin community on the west side to distribute 500 doses of vaccines to the community. But I understand the importance of the vaccine, and congratulations to you, Marvelous, for getting the vaccine.
Right. First, it's like getting tickets to Hamilton to sign up. It's unbelievable.
I know, it's incredible. But
my mom got her shot today, her first dose.
Congratulations. But they're pushing for everyone to get this vaccine, but we have other issues in our community that should have been addressed years ago and still needs to be addressed today. So as much as I understand, as much as we're pushing for black and brown community to get the vaccination, we also need to sit down and educate and push to get the black and brown community, in particular men, to change their diets, their exercise, the whole 9 yards, because that's one reason why we're a high risk, is the fact that we have poor diet and lack of exercise.
That's the number one reason why we're at high risk.
That's exactly it. So I think those emphasis need to be placed on those poor habits and characteristics that we have in our community, because we wouldn't necessarily need the vaccination as much as we need it currently. So that's just my little 2 cents. But I'm glad that you were able to. I'm glad you're good, brother.
Thank you.
Praise God.
Yep. We apologize again for the technical difficulties. We actually have a new board operator filling in for Devin Tingle.
Devin!
Yeah, on the Rewind Sports 60. Devin will be with us next, back in his place on Sunday. But we have hopefully everything will line up. We have a pretty packed show. And I'm Dylan, I got to make sure that the phones are open up, because we got guests calling in and we want to make sure that we're all good. But, hey, the good thing about it, we're moving forward. Sports, I am ecstatic, I am elated, and I'm beside myself for the simple fact that, to get our minds off of our daily grind and our daily struggle, the world of sports has been there to entertain us, Lauren.
Absolutely. And, it's exciting because things are starting to open up where they weren't before. I mean, we're really looking like things are starting to turn around. For the first time, I'm like, okay, maybe we can get some sense of normalcy back. But then you have your people that feel like it's still Corona's gone. That's what my cousin was saying that this weekend. She's like, oh my God, that's my scarf. She was like, oh my God, Corona's gone. And at the same token, I just saw someone on Facebook who passed away, a younger person, from coronavirus yesterday, I believe. Condolences to their family. But, on one hand, we're making progress. So let's just keep forward with that. Look towards the future.
Right.
Still be cautious, but it's good to see sports
Yeah,
back.
there are new variants of the virus, but on the sports scene, I enjoyed watching the White Sox today. The Cubs play tomorrow, and they're playing, I guess it was a 6-inning game today, so, and they didn't have most of the regulars, but it was nice to see that, and there were a couple thousand people in the stands, so that's beautiful if that can work going forward. And the basketball, I mean, I love the March Madness. The selection show is 2 weeks from today, the same day as the Grammys, where I don't know if our opening music disappeared, but I was hoping that that would be in the Grammys.
Right. I normally is.
But 2 weeks they'll have and last year there was no selection show because everything shut down on the Thursday before the selection show when they stopped the Big Ten tournament and the Big East tournament in its tracks. So we're coming up on 52 weeks since everything was shut down after the Rudy Gobert incident, I think, really triggered it.
He did. He totally set that off. But at the same point in time, people are saying if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, no, at the time I said, is he a villain or a hero?
We really have to unpack that.
First
because
I said villain, and then I went for a hero inadvertently.
Because there were certain things that were happening up until that point, and then, that pretty much had the world saying, okay, wait a minute, now let's think again about this.
Yeah, it was March 12th, a Thursday, at the Big East, the Big Ten tournament. They played like half a game and then everything, and then they shut down.
And life has never been the same, nor will it ever be the same.
And it's just the reason I'm thinking of it, we're coming up on March, so it's 52 weeks. It's unbelievable, the last year. I mean, for me personally, like everybody else, the virus was awful. I mean, it affected my work, my family, my son had to move, things of that nature. Nobody died, thank God, but it affected everybody. No question about it. And sports, with the true love that we all have for it, it was affected tremendously, but life is bigger than sports, so there was a small sacrifice.
What about the mental aspects of it, Dan?
Oh,
because, speaking of sports, recently, we've lost a couple of our sports figures.
Yeah, well, almost lost Tiger.
Almost lost Tiger, which we'll talk about more. But, the mental aspect of this is something that is.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at the newspaper headline: Kobe Bryant died. There's a little thing in the corner that said "mysterious virus appears in China." It was like at the end of January.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because my son, he used to go to a Mandarin immersion school. Yeah. And so they went to like the Chinese consulate and they raised all this money to help what was going on in coronavirus and, to send masks down there and nowhere. This was like in February.
Right.
No, in our conceivable minds, we could not conceive that we would be the ones that would be needing masks and PPP and
right. It just seems
PPE.
surreal. Yeah, it seems surreal when they shut down the sports. It was like, really, seriously. I mean, half a game. They were playing half a game in the Big Ten tournament, and they basically they said it's over. So at that point, it was like, what's going on here? But it became obvious later what was going on.
And the way that the teams were able to adjust to be able to accommodate it, still make it happen. Yeah. It was a lot of anger initially with the players because LeBron and them, they just felt like that they should not be playing.
Right. Well, they got to the finals in the NBA, and they got to the World Series, and they got to an NHL final, but they had to do the 60-game baseball season, of course, which was highly truncated, so it was very different. Hopefully baseball won't have a problem. I mean, like I say, they're starting now in spring training games, and in a month they'll be playing regular games, believe it or not.
What are they going to do about the capacity aspect for the
it
fans?
looks like Chicago is going to be probably about one of the last ones to have fans. I mean, it looks to me as though they had fans in Texas for the World Series.
Mm-hmm. Well, so they're not shutting.
So I would assume Texas, Florida, states of that nature will probably have some people, but I don't know about the rest. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I know for a fact that Illinois State University had a spring football game yesterday where they had a 20% capacity, and that's in our state, 2.5 hours away. So, it was outdoors. So and they had them all separated. So that was a good thing, a good sign that maybe it's getting closer to us where they'll be able to have some people at a game.
And two, I've heard, I know it was the Toronto Raptors this weekend. Yeah. Some of their coaching staff had to sit out.
The game was canceled tonight against the Bulls.
Yeah. So that's the thing too. It's like, it's still
right. And they've had to play their whole season in Tampa, their home games, because of the border issue with
Right.
Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But even all around the world, it's opening up. My best friend, she lives in London. She came to the show before. You weren't there that day, Dan.
Really? Okay.
But
I thought I'd been there every day.
well, this was in the summer. This was in August.
Okay. I can't. I was. The reason sometimes I wasn't here because I was going to a game, as Jerry will attest, and I'd call in from the road.
He's like, get it right.
I'd call in from the road, and it was like insane. I mean, I'd be driving, and I'd be the only one in the car.
Yeah,
so.
you were actually on the road, and you called in, and so that's why you weren't physically here in the studio. Hey, you know what? It's been a crazy roller coaster 2020. It's been a crazy roller coaster Sunday to kick off the Rewind Sports 60, the fastest onward sports conversation, ladies and gentlemen. So again, we do apologize for the technical difficulties that we've experienced to kick off the fastest onward sports conversation, but I think we're all good. We're going to test things out because we're going to go to our TRS60 hotline. And this gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a longtime Chicagoan, if you're a longtime sports fan, if you just pay attention to what's going on in the landscape as far as the sports world is concerned here in the greatest city in the world, Chicago, you know of this gentleman's work, and I'm pleased to and honored to have him join us on the Rewind Sports 60. It's been a long time, and I'm sure a lot of you misses this guy's entertainment, whether you like it or you didn't like it. But, ladies and gentlemen, he's a former Chicago Sun-Times columnist, ESPN radio host. He's currently the host of Unmuted, a podcast, and he writes for the Barrett Sports Media. He's on our TR60 hotline, ladies and gentlemen. You love him? Some of you may hate him, but he's with us on the Rewind Sports 60. He's none other than Jay Mariotti. Jay, how are you?
Jerry Riles, long time no here, and I want to praise you for putting me on the air, because that's something that would not happen at the Score or at A1000. So it's good to be with you.
Well, you know what? It's
Hope we won't be sorry.
No. You know what? It's no problem with me. And I got to tell you, our slogan, our motto, Jay, is real sports, real talk, just plain real. And believe me, you've covered years and years of the best. Whether it's here in Chicago or around the country, you've covered a lot of folks, and you know a lot of people, and you and I both know in this industry, it's cutthroat, it's backstabbing, and it's very, very challenging. But I'm here to say that, because I'm a practicing Catholic, that he is without sin cast the first stone. And so I don't have a problem talking with anybody, because we have all stumbled, we've all, stubbed our toe, our foot, or whatever, and it doesn't mean that that's the end. It means we get back up, dust ourselves off, and move forward, brother. So I appreciate you taking the offer and joining us on the Rewind Sports 60 to come on and talk shop.
No problem. In fact, I got off these AirPods I was on because I think they were making a distortion. But no, I mean, it's good to hear from somebody like you. You used to work, excuse me, in the industry at the Score, I believe, and I think there's been a lot of misconceptions about me. I left the Sun-Times. I handed back $1 million because I thought the thing was falling apart back in 2008, and I think now looking back a dozen years later, I think I was right. I'm glad I got out of there when I did, because they had no digital presence at the time. It was a faltering newspaper, and I have moved on. I live in Los Angeles now. I'm loving life, and I threw myself into my work in Chicago, as anybody who read me knows, and I'm pleased to have had 17 years in that city, but it was good to get it out of there when I did.
No, the industry was certainly changing, and I know that there are a lot of scribes who transition from print to the digital world, to on air, and they're hosting shows in what I call the greatest city in the world, that of course Chicago, Illinois. But there was certainly a transitional time frame, and people were fearful. I mean, a lot of print people didn't know when the dust settled where things were going to lie, and they were just simply scrambling. But I can say a lot of them have landed on their feet. You've landed on your feet, and we move forward. We wanted to reach out to you, and again, great years here in the Chicagoland area. You certainly ruffled a lot of feathers, though, Jay. Of course, you ruffled a lot of feathers. But before we say goodbye to you, I want you to make amends with the future World Series champions, and that, of course, the Chicago White Sox, man, because you had some feuds with the owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, of course, Ozzie Guillen, when he was the manager back during that day. But I'm telling you, it's time to, let bygones be bygones, and let's mend fences and move forward, because I'd love to see you here in Chicago when the White Sox hoist the 2021 World Series championship, my friend.
Let's talk about the White Sox for a minute. I mean, oddly, why only the White Sox did I have a problem? I never had any problem with the Cubs, never with the Bears, never with the Blackhawks, never with Northwestern, never with the Illini, never with anybody in that city, not even the Bulls. Why the White Sox? It became, I believe, a Hawk Harrelson production. We suck. Let's go after Mariotti. Fine. All it did was sell more newspapers when I wasn't even attempting to do so at the time. So I had no problem with the White Sox. I covered the White Sox with the same aggressiveness that I covered everybody else in Chicago. They seem to have the problem with me. And I think if you guys look back in time a little bit at the Cubs, that was Sammy Sosa, that was Bartman, and honestly, nothing against the White Sox or their fans or anything, but most of my time, during the baseball season was being spent at Wrigley Field. So there were a lot of times I wasn't even going to White Sox games. Remember, I was a national columnist. I'm covering the Olympics overseas. I'm covering golf tournaments. I'm covering Tiger Woods. I'm not entrenched in the city like, say, a talk show host would be 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. I was everywhere, and yet I'm hearing these distant calls from Ozzie Guillen. Where is he? Why isn't he here? Because I don't cover your team, Ozzie. I don't care. I'm covering the U.S. Open at Winged Foot, and I don't really care what's going on with your team right now. And I think that just became this convoluted media thing where it became laughable. That Jay against the White Sox. Why? To this day, I can't explain the whole thing other than never had any problems with any other teams in Chicago, but the White Sox, I have a problem. I had no problem with the White Sox. They had a problem with me.
So, the way you feel, and you say you don't really know why it even started, did you over time say, you know what, let me pick up the phone, call, Jerry, Mr. Reinsdorf, and say, hey, let me clear the air. There's nothing against you, because I do remember there were a couple articles that you wrote about, well, in particular, Hawk Harrelson, and the phrase that he coined, "he gone." I distinctly remember you saying in the article that he doesn't even speak proper English, and some fans and the White Sox could look at that and say, wait a minute, because "he gone" is a catchy phrase, and it still sticks today with the great legendary Hall of Famer broadcaster Hawk Harrelson. But when you wrote that article and say "he gone" and it doesn't even make any sense, I can see from the White Sox perspective.
Harry Carey spoke proper English. I mean, neither did Harry Carey. I mean, come on. I think the White Sox in general, and it started with Reinsdorf, everybody's too sensitive on the South Side. Let me tell you a Reinsdorf story. When I got to Chicago, I'm in Sarasota when they were at the time when the White Sox were training in Florida. Reinsdorf wanted to have an audience with me at the ballpark there. I had an audience with him and his assistant, Dennis Gilbert, who I believe is still his assistant to this day. And we started off fine until, this is going back a while, guys, 29 years, but Reinsdorf was the most influential sports owner in America at the time. He was the owner of a budding basketball dynasty. He paid Michael Jordan his salary, and he owned a baseball franchise that was opening a brand new ballpark, a glittering new ballpark at the time, with Frank Thomas, Robin Ventura, an awesome starting rotation, and what seemed to be a budding baseball dynasty. And I'm sitting there, just arrived in town, realizing, wow, it's going to be hard to screw this up because this man is on top of the world, Jerry Reinsdorf. Well, some things started to happen there. I mean, you have the Michael Jordan gambling scandal. There was Reinsdorf's role in a labor impasse in baseball that I think we're headed toward again in 2022. And this man could not accept much of what I was writing in the Chicago Sun-Times. I'm supposed to be, I guess, his Bobo. And I'm starting to get phone calls from people saying, we can't sit in the upper deck at the ballpark. It's too steep. We're a senior citizens group from Rockford, and we had to go home because we can't make it up there. It's too steep. And I'm starting to write these articles about his ballpark maybe not being so hot and the baseball situation with labor, and he's not liking it. And one day I get a call from his assistant, and she said, you are not to call Mr. Reinsdorf again. And guys, I guess I heeded that advice because I didn't speak to the man again for, 15 years? If he doesn't want to talk to me, if he's going to be a baby, and he always was, none of the other owners were babies in Chicago. They just took the heat. It's a major market. The columnists should be tough there. They aren't. To this day, they're very soft. I think a lot of the talk show hosts at the Score know where their bread is buttered. They can't cross that line. They want to stay employed. Same with AM 1000. I didn't care. I said, I'm going to write for the fans, whether they like it or not. And I think a lot of fans did not simply understand that I was working for them, because when they would hear a Hawk Harrelson criticize me, it would be, oh, if Hawk's ripping him, he must not be a cool guy. No, I'm writing the truth about the owners in Chicago, and I think some smart fans got it and appreciated it. And I think some not-so-smart fans thought I was against their team. I wasn't against their team. I'm trying to help their team win by maximizing the payroll of the White Sox and the Bears and the other teams in town. Remember, I used to call the Bears the misers of the Midway. Well, I didn't hear the McCaskies trying to get me fired or calling me anti-whatever. Reinsdorf used to say I was anti-Semitic. No, I'm anti-bad owner. Spend your money.
Well,
and so getting back, Jerry, to what you were saying 3 minutes ago, you want me to make amends for what? This team has not been in the playoffs for how long? 12, 13 years before last autumn? I'm going to make amends for what? They underachieved. This guy was a cheap ass for years. He finally puts a team together with a long rebuild, and now what? Everything's good again? I think the fans need to be harder on your management people there. I don't think they're hard enough, and I think the media need to be much, much harder on the teams there. And I get. To me, it's like funny, all these years later, anytime I write something about Chicago, oh my God, he wrote about us. I mean, grow up, people. My God.
Well, Jay,
it's the third largest city in America.
Yeah.
Start acting that way in regard to your sports team.
We're on with Jay Mariotti, sports journalist and commentator. Thank you so very much. And hey, as the old great late Chet Kopic would say, your dime, your dance floor, buddy. Hey, listen, the reason I said make amends is the fact that it's in the past. And first of all, there are a lot of people that would disagree with you back then and even today with Jerry Reinsdorf, because many of us feel that he's the greatest owner in the city of Chicago. Some say Rocky Warts, and the simple fact of the championships that Jerry Reinsdorf and his company, his organization have put together, whether it's the Bulls and the Michael Jordan, we certainly get that, or the White Sox with the 205 championship and what they're doing now. So I'm a lifelong Chicagoan. I've grown up in the city, and I've seen the hard times, brother. Believe me, I've seen the hard times. And so I understand the business aspects of what happens, but from a fan's perspective, and even from a media's perspective, I say make amends for the simple fact that it's a tough business. It's a tough business, and this stuff is water under the bridge, and there's no reason, in my opinion, to hold a grudge one way or the other.
2 words.
Yeah.
Jerry, 2 words. Boston, Massachusetts. How many?
I got it.
Championships
That's another thing that pisses us off.
Patriots, Celtics, and Bruins won in the 21st century, guys. How many? What is it?
We get it.
15?
Yeah.
I mean, you need to start.
Stop it. We can't deal with that.
What? It's a minor market. It's a little league market, Jerry. I got to run. This is Los Angeles. This is a big time market. Have a good day, man. Bye-bye.
Wow. That's it?
I guess.
I was going to ask about if it's a Reinsdorf thing, why didn't he have a problem with the Bulls?
I wanted to ask him about maybe he got upset. He got his 2 cents in and he got upset.
I was going to ask him to tell us how he really feels.
Yeah, he got an opportunity.
We live rent free in his brain. I see it in Chicago. Gosh.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe Jay is Jay.
Obviously, it's still festering.
Yeah, I don't think that.
I can't believe he hung up like that.
Yeah. Call him back.
Even Mike Dicker stayed on a little longer than that. Jesus Christ. Give us a break, Jay.
Ditka was angry.
Call him back. Dylan, call Jay right back. Tell him I got one other thing for him.
Yeah, I didn't even get to ask him anything.
I wanted to ask him about, you talking about ownership, I wanted to ask him about our question to George McCaskey and the Payton family ownership. But evidently he's not, he still has a bone to pick with Jerry Reinsdorf and the Chicago White Sox.
And we were innocent bystanders today. Why you hang up on us?
Well, wait, it's 4:30 in L.A. It isn't even happy hour. It's not a weekday. You know?
I wanted to talk with him about Tiger Woods, but he doesn't want to answer. No problem. I'll call him later after the show. But Jay, it was his dance floor, and he was done dancing. Mm-hmm. We're hoping for an opportunity to talk. Wow, I didn't expect that, to be honest with you.
I didn't know that's where we were going.
I thought he was joking.
Me either. I mean, what ticked him off so bad? Because you just was like, just stop, put it in the past. What? Jerry, what you doing?
Well, I didn't want to hear about the Boston market.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hear about that because it's a
Patriots, Bruins.
Yeah, we don't need that rubbed in our face. We don't need that. We understand championships. We understand that. We don't need that rubbed in our faces. But I was hoping, I invited Jay Mariotti to join us to talk about Tiger Woods, right? Because he's out in Los Angeles. I read
a lot of nerve.
I read his column regarding the curse of Tiger Woods with the recent accident that he was involved in, and thank God that Tiger is okay. Long recovery, but his golf game it's done. It's over. His golf career is over. So, but that's why I extended the invitation to talk to Jay Mariotti to get his perspective on that and his story. And
he started out by saying that the score wouldn't have him, and so that he started out with. Some kind with a feeling.
Yes, a very strong feeling. Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is, and the one reason I said make amends is because I do understand that Jay wanted to return back to Chicago. He spent 17 years here covering the teams, and of course he wrote for the Chicago Sun-Times as a columnist, controversial, no question about it. But I understood that he wanted to try to get back into the market and talk sports, which is fine, and I'd love to have him anytime.
I thought I heard him say that he gave up $1 million. It was his choice. I mean, it sounded like
giving it over to me. I would have taken it. But I didn't expect Jay Mariotti to take that position. Yeah. I think over time, wounds should heal. I think you let things go. Life is too short to be fighting and bickering over sports. Nonetheless.
Okay, the Beatles. Life is very short, and there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend.
Hey, Lauren, I had a fight with a childhood friend. I only had like 2 fights in my whole life, and the one was with a childhood friend. His name was Sean Swayzer. I had a fight with him. He beat me up once. I beat him up the second time, and that was all she wrote.
Yes.
I still don't hold a grudge to the guy from 50 years later because we had a fight. Jeez. Let it go.
Yep.
I'll call him.
We didn't do it, Jay.
We'll get Jay back on.
We had nothing to do with that.
Wow. Well,
okay.
Hey, Dylan, can you get our other guests on? We got a couple minutes, man. Dylan is filling in for Devin Teagle.
He like, these people are crazy.
Yeah.
Dylan, this is not our style. We don't usually get hung up on like this.
We have time to kill now.
Yeah, we only get hung up.
I'm glad I did
just one time.
I'm glad I did the PSA. I mean, that took some time.
Yes. Why do these guys feel they have to hang up? Is it? I'm not
with Dicker. I could kind of see where.
No, I can't. No, I can't. No.
I mean, I could see the train was going downhill, but this one just.
It was sudden.
I was, about to jump in, and
sudden.
then
Me too. It was sudden.
I didn't know he was going there with it.
Maybe he had an appointment.
No, he didn't have an appointment.
Exactly, because he was like, well, it's so time in L.A. So.
Well, here's what Hawk Harrelson had to say about it.
How long were we from?
Yes! 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 Yes!
Was that during a game or after retirement?
Mercy!
Yeah, I mean, Hawk Harrison can't even understand.
Yeah.
And he said what he said. He said that these owners, they shouldn't be so sensitive. It seemed like he was the sensitive one.
People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, right?
Exactly.
It seemed like he was the sensitive one.
Wow.
He sure was. And then he's like, the fans aren't hard enough. And, I mean, I wanted to ask him, okay, well, how, what should the fans do? Because I'd heard that they were saying that, a lot of it was different with the McCaskey family this year because they, Virginia and the family couldn't go in their box and see no fans show up, and like that would be what would really prompt them to make some changes if fans decided to not show up anymore like they did for the Bulls. Because, that may be the only language that, would resonate with the family. I don't know, with the ownership.
Yeah, I'm Jay Mariotti.
Yeah.
We didn't ask him really tough questions.
We didn't ask him the tough
You
question.
didn't ask him anything.
Yeah, we didn't.
No, I just said I didn't want to hear about Boston and all the championship they've been winning and they've won, and I think he took offense to that. So I mean, that's being a little bit sensitive, but
Bet he won't be coming back to visit Chicago no time soon.
Dylan, who is this?
310.
Yeah, we got someone on the hotline. We apologize. Jay is back. Here he is. Hey, Jay.
Hey, Jerry, I only have 5 more minutes.
Jay, you hung up on me. What are you doing?
I hung up on you because I only had 15 minutes. I'm in a car. Go ahead. What do you need to know?
Yeah, don't do that, Jay.
Dude, hey, Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry, you're a small timer in a little market. See ya. Don't bug me anymore.
Hey, Jay.
No, he didn't.
Small timer in a little market. Wow.
Back again.
In Chicago.
Chicago, you're a small timer.
There's Jay Mariotti.
What is
And
this? Do you got his email?
Shame on me. And you just gave me an idea.
Yeah.
I would give his number out on the air and tell everybody to call him and kick him in his ass. And if I'm a small timer in a small market, he's not even in the market.
Exactly.
He got kicked out of the market.
Okay.
And again, you want to dog Jerry Reinsdorf?
He's
You want to
a
dog
scumbag.
Ozzie Guillen? You want to dog the Chicago White Sox? Well, that's the reason they gave you a ticket out of Chicago. And then you took your ass over to ESPN and you got your ass kicked out over there. And, you know what? I don't like to dig up dirty laundry, Jay. I don't like to do it. But
Take it up.
Yeah,
He deserves it.
I'm not going to stoop to his level.
No.
As my good friends Barack Obama and Michelle Obama say, when they go low, we go high. So we'll go high. But Jay Mariotti, you know what? If this is the way, because we don't treat our guests this way, but if this is the way that you handle an invitation to join us,
How petty.
to talk sports,
Yeah.
and you're being sensitive like this, you're being a baby like this, and then you're trying to be name calling like this, Jay Mariotti, good riddance to you.
Yeah.
And
You're the
God
best.
bless you, brother.
He's
You know
a
what I
scumbag,
say?
like I
God
said.
bless you,
You know what I
brother.
say? Let's move on. That's what I say.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Oh, I got 5 minutes. What do you want to do? You're a small timer in a small market. Thanks, Jay.
I'm in the car.
I'm in LA.
But you know what? Some people don't change their colors, and
Not at all. That's why he was so surprised. He's
Yeah.
like, somebody let me back home?
he was surprised that somebody from Chicago actually called to talk with him about sports to get his insight on some things, and evidently he still carries a grudge. Marvelous.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, to carry a grudge is one thing, but to
It's unbelievable.
it's like a festering wound.
Hey, Jerry Reinsdorf, Hawk Harrelson, Ozzie Guillen, Chicago White Sox organization, I understand. And my apologies to you for extending an invitation for this guy to come on the air and talk shop. My apologies. I hope you guys, your feathers aren't ruffled by either hearing the guy's voice. In City of Chicago, my apologies.
The only consolation would be I hope we got good ratings.
Well, people are going to be listening, and they were listening, but my apologies to all of you who were listening and to the White Sox organization for giving this guy any amount of time to come on, because I thought maybe he was a little bit mature in his age. I thought maybe that he was a little bit more humble and understanding. But of course, you heard it for yourself, and you'll continue to hear it all week long on the RewindSports60.com. We'll be on Twitter, Facebook, the whole 9 yards, and of course on Comcast Access in the northern suburbs on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Channel 17, Channel 19, Channel 35. Jay Mariotti.
Yeah, we have time to we have time to cover. Is there any time left to carry?
Can we get Buster Douglas?
I was going to say boxing.
You're not getting an answer from him either.
Boxing? How about no politics or boxing either?
Let me tell you something,
ridiculous.
man. This is, he
is. He's a scumbag. It's obvious. Why would you do that? You come on the show, and then you're going to be petty like you're 12 years old. Like what kind of pettiness is that?
But it didn't seem like it was heading there until the end.
Well, no, it was totally out of the blue.
Right.
First and foremost, and then for him to just end it like that again, come back around just to be petty and immature. I just, unbelievable. He is one of a kind.
Sure, it could have been like, something's come up right now. I have to go or something. Anything,
Yeah, but you're gonna call back to say that? Come on. Let me stop.
No, it's real sports, real talk. Just playing real.
Let me stop. I'm not even gonna go there.
Okay.
Go ahead, finish. No, nope. Not gonna do it. You ain't gonna do it to me, Jay. You almost took me there, but nope, not today.
So it was good to hear the White Sox announcers today.
Pretty much, yes.
And it's interesting. Casper's, the play-by-play game for the White Sox on radio now, and they've moved over to 1,000. So it's a little different vibe for the White Sox this year. And the Cubs start tomorrow, and they're going to have Shambi doing the play-by-play on Marquee, and he'll not be there half the time because of his national commitments. So they'll be scrambling for paper. So it will be interesting for spring training. I really enjoyed the live sports. So just to change the subject, I thought I'd mention that.
Thank you. But Tiger Woods is,
What are your thoughts on that?
It's so much to unpack with Tiger. I know you guys probably saw that documentary.
I didn't see it.
You didn't?
No, I lived it.
What about you, Dan? Did you see the documentary? I think it was on HBO. That's special.
I'm aware of it, but I didn't actually see it.
Well, it kind of gave you the behind the scenes. It was unauthorized, obviously. But what I became present to after watching that documentary was how disconnected he was. Mm-hmm. He just seemed incredibly disconnected, very robotic, super programmed. And I never saw the aliveness, the joy that you would want to see in someone who has accomplished what he has accomplished. No joy in his fame, his accolades, his money,
How about early on when he was accomplishing for the first time? Was it any different then? You'd think that the first time would have been joyful.
No. He just seemed like he had been programmed and disconnected from that upbringing. And he has done. He transcended sports. That will to win. I was using that in interviews.
It's unbelievable. All these guys, these golfers, that's all they do. And he was so much above them. It's hard to believe that he could have been so superior to the golfers who this is their whole life.
Yes.
They practice every single day, and he was able to defeat them easily for so long.
And not being able to handle, all that comes with that when the world knows who you are. You're above and beyond any sports celebrity that you can think of.
Obviously, that affected his personal life,
too. So that was one of the reasons why I invited Jay Mariotti to join us, because he wrote an article for the publication that he's writing for, and the headline more or less was The Curse Life of Tiger Woods. And I know how he's perceived publicly. And my buddy even said, the guy has a troubling life. And I look at it and I say, you know what? There are a lot of athletes who haven't even reached the magnitude that Tiger has that, believe me, have a lot worse situations and things occur in their personal lives that never gets to that point.
They had to extract him with the jaws of life.
No, they
Jerry.
didn't. No, they didn't. They pulled him out. That was bad reporting. They didn't use that. The officers they came. They had an axe. They pulled him through the
windshield.
The
right?
windshield.
Yeah.
He was coherent. He told the guy, who are you? My name is Tiger. His leg was shattered, but they didn't have to do that. But the point of the matter is, and I understand, but believe me, there are a lot of athletes, Lauren, who've gone through a lot worse than what Tiger Woods have gone through, yet we don't even know about it. Well, trust me when I tell you this. Okay?
I hear you.
My point being is,
how many crashes can he survive? I mean, this is...
At least he wasn't being chased by, with somebody with a golf club.
and here's the thing. Right. Here's the thing. The road that he crashed on, it's a deadly road. There have been 13 accidents in 13 months with 5 serious injuries on that road that he crashed on. And now the Los Angeles County are going to take a closer look at it and try to make some corrections. So that road in itself is a problem road. And Tiger Woods driving at 7:20 a.m.
Right.
Pacific time to go to a golf.
Plus, he had a rental
meeting
car. Wasn't his regular car.
It was from the
golf tournament.
the Guinness's
Right.
Invitational courtesy car,
Right.
SUV. So for him to be driving at 7:20 in the morning to meet Drew Brees for a golf, training or whatever. At that time, that's a deadly road, and thank God that he's okay. But my point being is that, and people, you can point the finger, you can say whatever you want to. You can say, I know people with less money who've done worse. But if you're worth $1 billion, you're worth $1 billion.
Yeah.
In the prime of your life.
Well,
In the prime of your life.
it might not be the prime of life for him.
It was the prime of, that's even a great point.
That's what you
because
say, but I don't see the prime.
as far as his age.
Was it
Right.
40 something?
If you're in your
So your age,
you're in your
what
30s,
is
you're
your
20,
mental? Are you mental? Is this the prime of your life mentally?
but that's the point. See, here's the deal, Lauren, and we take it for granted because we live a normal average life. We get to graduate from high school, graduate from college, get a job, go out to prom. We get to go to hang out at the clubs. We get to do all of that stuff, right? But athletes such as Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, and Michael, he hung out when he had to hang out. But my point is,
I've seen him
they didn't
hanging
get to. We see what happened with Patrick Kane. Because he did not get to live the normal lifestyle, yet he wanted to, and when he had the opportunity, he went crazy.
Like a Michael Jackson.
You go crazy. So Tiger Woods is no different than a lot of these cats that you see at the club or whatever. It's just that Tiger Woods is worth $1 billion, and when he does something, like E.F. Hutton, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. When it happens to Tiger, the world stops.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to live in the bubble, in this fishbowl that he lives in, because what kind of life is that?
But he has the resources, though, Jerry, and that's the thing.
$1 billion resources.
Well, every resource that you can imagine, and that's the thing. This pandemic has heightened. It's made everything exacerbated. Mental issues that you may or may not have had before this. Then you have, his health issues. He has health issues. These are a lot of the family issues. If you looked at that story, he had a contentious relationship with his dad, and just all of that going on, compounded with
Great.
what he is, his talent. That a lot of people have those issues, but they don't have the resources that he's had.
He had a great comeback story with his back problems to win the Masters.
How about this? Let me
say.
say this to you.
He has to get help.
Listen, there are a lot of people.
It's more symbolic than just this is a winding road. I mean, this is the second time this has happened
Robert
to him.
Ursay, the owner for the Indianapolis Colts. Right?
Yeah.
He got, a couple years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, not that long ago, he got pulled over in Indianapolis, outside of Indianapolis, with his car. He had guns, he had drugs, he was toasted, he was all loaded. We heard a blip on the radar as far as that story is concerned, and that's it. Jerry Jones, he's carousing with women all over the place. The owner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Don't forget the Patriots owner, too.
Yeah, Robert Kraft.
Yeah.
There's business as usual because they got the money, they got the resources, and it's like, hey, I own a team. I can do whatever I want to. So what? What makes them?
Yeah, but he almost
so
died,
different?
though. He almost died.
Yeah.
I understand that.
That's way bigger than just getting caught with some females. I mean, this is serious. This is life and death stuff that's happening to him. this is the second time it's
But
happened.
his life, my point being, his life has been under a microscope since he was a little boy.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
None of these other guys' lives have been under a microscope.
Sure.
And we just, listen,
He's got pressure that we could never
Dallas
imagine.
Cowboys, Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, all those guys that played back in the championship years, they had what was called the White House. It wasn't the White House in D.C., and it wasn't called the White House because it was the White House, if you understand what I'm saying. So, and Jerry Jones this is his team, America's team. All that stuff was looked the other way. I don't know. Hollywood Henderson, who was a primetime, you remember him?
Yeah.
A primetime linebacker for the storybook America's team, Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Cocaine issues. There are problems that the Dallas Cowboys organization, they look the other way. Because at the end of the day, they say, these cats gonna make me some money, and I get to build this big-ass stadium that they're playing in now, so who cares?
So what are you saying?
I'm saying that Tiger Woods and all his exploits, and it's sad, it's disappointing, but Tiger Woods is under the microscope. Is the fact that the sport that he plays in, he's an individual minority, African-American, part male, that's capitalist. He's dominated the sport that white men created in their own.
Yeah.
And they don't want to see that.
Yeah.
They don't want to see that.
But he needs to recognize that first and foremost.
Well, I don't know. If I
Is
worked
he
a day-
present
if
to
I
that?
worked- if I
I mean,
worked-
I don't think he's present to that. I don't think he
shouldn't
cares. So
have
why
to.
would we?
He shouldn't have to. He shouldn't have to. He shouldn't have to.
What do you mean he
He's
shouldn't
paid-
have to?
He's paid his
He shouldn't
dues.
have to, but he should be cognizant of it. And
I don't. You know what?
You know, I mean,
listen.
not acting like it's not so.
He's living life, Lauren. He's living life, and we all screw up. We all make mistakes. We all have accidents. I had a guy hit my car. I wasn't even driving. He hit my car. It was an accident, but he had to pay for it. But the point is, Tiger Woods is living his life, and he's screwing up in certain parts of it. But hey, the reason
That's
we're
what he's got to correct.
The reason we're talking. No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
He's
If he
human.
wants-
honey.
Well, as
He's
humans, we
human.
have to correct and evolve and grow.
No,
And
that's what humans do.
yeah.
That's what we do. We screw up.
Yes.
We screw up.
Yes.
And
for
we
sure.
try to make. Let me tell you something. We all screw up. We all screw up. And believe me, he's thankful that he didn't, Tiger's done what Tiger's been able to try to do with Tiger's life. I can't walk in. I wish I could walk in his shoes, but my golf game would improve.
Walking his bank book.
Yeah, big one too. But hey, he's trying to do what he can do. Thank God he's alive.
Yes,
That's
Tiger.
the fastest I went.
Get well, Tiger,
apologize.
mentally and physically.
Lauren Cox,
Apologize.
thank you so very much. It's great to see you back in studio. Marvelous. It's great
Thanks.
to have you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure.
And
Pleasure.
Get you, Jay.
yeah, Jay. I'm disappointed. I just texted him and say, Jay, I'm disappointed in you. That was unprofessional. Dylan, thank you for filling in. It was a rough, rocky road, but we got through it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the fastest hour in sports
Thanks,
conversation.
Dylan.
Yeah.
This is another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the week, and we'll see you next week on WCPT 820 AM, the Rewind Sports 60. Take care, everybody.
Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Sports Medicine Update, a weekly podcast with yours truly, Jerry Riles and the Honorable Dr. Chad Padromas. Dr. Chadwick Padromas is an orthopedic surgeon at Illinois Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Centers right here in the great Chicagoland area, also in Glenview, Naples, and he is the orthopedic surgeon at Padromas Stem Cell Institute. He's also the editor-in-chief of the Anterior Cruciate Ligament Reconstruction and Basic Science. Doctor, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jerry. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic, and hey, looks like we're around the bend, as they say in the old horse racing business. Here they come spinning around the turn, as far as the weather is concerned, because last time we had chatted, it was below zero. The temperatures were plummeting, and the snow and cold was here. A week later, 40, 45 degrees temperature. The weekend is looking very good as well. So we're coming on in around the turn there, and looking good, feeling good, and enjoying this these end of this tough.
Yeah, only in
winter.
Chicago. Only in Chicago can the 40s feel like beach weather, you know. But I feel the same way.
Exactly. I got friends down in Oklahoma, and she was, because all that area, Texas, Oklahoma, they got hit with the cold and the snow, and luckily for her, unfortunately for her, the pipes in their place didn't burst, but they had a water main break outside their complex, so they had to get that taken care of. But she was bragging to me, saying, "Yeah, we're up to 70 degrees back again." And I was like, "Oh wow, what a way to rub it in for us!" But you're right, 45 degrees, close to 50 degrees. That's like beach weather for sure. Yeah. Talk about warm weather and warm climates. Baseball season, spring training is kicked off this past week. The Cubs and Sox have reported to Arizona. And, of course, this is golf season as well. And the biggest name in golf made world news, but not the way that he wanted to make news. The recent rollover automobile accident by the great Tiger Woods just outside of Los Angeles, California, about a week ago. And it was breathtaking. A lot of people were on pins and needles as far as his health was concerned. Thank God he's healthy, he's alive, and he's fine. But he suffered a serious injury in that automobile accident, doctor, and it was a shattered, broken leg, more or less, and a shattered ankle. But if you want to elaborate a little bit more on the injury that Tiger Woods sustained and what this means to his rehab and getting back to some sort of normalcy.
Yeah, and first I should also mention, had he not been wearing a seatbelt, he probably wouldn't have survived. So that's I think these days most everybody does, but something important to keep in mind. He so and again, as always I have no inside information, just what I get in the news feeds. But open fracture, compound fracture. Compound is the older term, open's the newer one, meaning that you break the bone, but the skin is broken so that the broken bone communicates with the outside air environments, generally worse injuries, higher energy injuries. So compound fracture of his tibia, probably his fibula too, I don't know that for sure, and a fracture of his ankle. So, from what I read, he had a rod put in his tibia, he had plate and screws put on his ankle, these days we do better with those than we used to. Very skilled trauma surgeons pretty much everywhere. But it's the tibia is the slowest bone in the body to heal because it's a big bone, and bone gets its blood supply and cells that help it heal from muscle that surrounds it. So the femur is a very serious injury when you get it, but the thigh bone is surrounded by muscle. The tibia is exposed in much of its area. So tibia fractures can just take a very long time to heal.
It's amazing that, again, it just sounds like basically broken leg and shattered, fractured ankle. And you're absolutely right. Ladies and gentlemen, kids as well, those of you who are watching and or listening to this podcast, make sure to be responsible and put the seatbelt on. Put the seatbelt on. The authorities out there said that that probably saved Tiger Woods' life. And thank goodness he was, buckled in, strapped down. And unfortunately, now it's interesting as far as the road that he was traveling on, Doctor. They said this is a very dangerous road in the first place. There reported unofficial reports of 13 accidents in the past 13 months on that road. Wow. With 5 injuries, 5 people who sustained injuries from that road, driving on that road. So now Los Angeles County officials are going to take a closer look at this road to see what they can do to try to make things safer. But it's unbelievable that it would take something of this magnitude with Tiger Woods nearly killing himself for this to finally get some attention and be addressed. But again, thank goodness that he's fine and he's okay. But he's got a long rehab recovery process ahead of him. And when I heard the news and I saw the wreckage, again, it was kind of haunting because we're just about a year ago from when Kobe Bryant in the Los Angeles area and his beautiful young daughter and friends lost their lives in a helicopter crash. So when we heard the news of Tiger, it was definitely breathtaking, and we were saying our prayers because we didn't want to have a repeat of another iconic sports figure, losing his life. But when I saw it and I heard it, I said that his golf career is over. It's done. I mean, he was in the twilight years of his golf career prior to the accident. But my opinion, I mean, I simply don't see a comeback. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, there's several interrelated issues here. So the tibia fracture is slow to heal, and there have been a few high-profile injuries that the most recent being Alex Smith, quarterback, who had, he had a compound fracture of his tibia like Tiger. I don't really know if he fractured his ankle as well, but his was complicated by infections. He not only almost lost his leg, almost lost his life. And so the fracture mechanically can be put together with some clever hardware, nails that go down the center of the bone and plates and screws. But there's the sort of the carpentry aspect of it, which we've gotten pretty good at doing these days. But there's the biology aspect of it too. And that bone, the higher the energy that's imparted, the more tissue death and the greater the chances that bad things will happen. The two bad things mainly being infection, which he had, I believe, and also it's called non-union, which means it just doesn't heal. And then you have to go back later and do other things. So, even if all goes well, it's problematic. But this is something that is not a slam dunk to heal right. So right now he's had his preliminary surgery, and I don't know, sometimes there are cases where you'll put one form of hardware in and switch it out for another. Probably that's not the case. Usually I was told he had plates and screws in his ankle, which is usually definitive, and a rod down the tibia is usually definitive as well. So, if he's lucky, maybe that's it. But once it's put together, bad things can happen. Surgeons know this. They have to be vigilant. And so, with Alex Smith, it went on for a long, long time, and just remarkable that he got back. The other injury that is equally well known, maybe more so, was Joe Theismann, 30-some years ago. And that was a nationally televised game. I remember watching it, and wow, people saw right on the screen his leg bending in ways that it wasn't supposed to bend. I don't know if he had a compound fracture or not. That is, if the bone was sticking out through the skin. But I do know that it took a long time, and I believe, and I'm just going from memory here, I think he failed his physical the next year, which is not a reflection on him. These things just take a long time to heal. Mm-hmm. And I think he decided to retire. And probably after another year, it would have healed well enough for him to play. But then the question comes up, you're getting a little older, one thing and another. So the one lesson from this in Tiger Woods' case, if you get complications, they can go on for a very long time. But even if you don't, these things take more than a year to heal and get back to the way they were. Now, the bar is a little lower for golf than it is for football. But still, in all, as you say, it's going to be a while. And you know, in general, the knee is okay afterwards. Although you can get some pain from where a rod's put in. The ankle sometimes can have issues from having the hardware put in. So the point I'm getting at is that the leg is an issue in and of itself. But in his case, I mean, again, I haven't studied his medical history, but I do know that he's had back issues and I believe multiple back surgeries. So the back is just is sort of the Achilles heel, as it were, for golfers. Golf is friendly to your shoulders in general, generally friendly to the knees, although I think he's had knee issues too, but it's a lot of torque on the back. So here's the thing. He had back issues and he came back, and he won the other major and all that, which is remarkable testament to him. But when you hurt your leg like this, you limp and you're on crutches and your gait is altered, and altered gait is stressful to the back. So not only does he have to worry about his leg, he also has to worry about whether his altered gait biomechanics, as we say, will aggravate his back. Hopefully not. But, a golf swing is such a delicate thing, and particularly with someone like him, and the guys now, the good players, are so strong. They generate tremendous torque. So they're very finely balanced. So, there's the leg, there's the back, there's the fact that he's toward the senior, the more advanced portion of his career. And as you say, how much do you lose? You lose muscle mass.
All right, let's bring on the guest, Jerry Riles. He is a radio producer for a long time. He currently runs the Rewind Sports 60 on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, and he produced radio shows for Walter Payton and Gale Sayers, football legends, not only in Chicago, but in football lore. They are huge. And here's the interesting thing. Hey, Jerry, welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Gary. Thank you so very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to join you.
Here's the weird thing, and producer Alan pointed this out. This is the 34th live show. And what was Walter Payton's number?
You got it. 34.
Okay, I'm just hoping for the mega tonight. Oh, the mega.
There you go. There you go.
Welcome to the show. And I can talk to you about a lot of things, but something happened this week when you were doing your show, and I really enjoyed it because I like when things are uncomfortable and they're squirming as you listen to something or you're watching a TV show and there's something very awkward and it comes right through the screen. And I think you had that moment, Jerry, and you can tell me your feeling about it, but you had the owner of the Chicago Bears on, George McCaskey, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And in the middle of the conversation, you kind of dropped this on him. Hey, why don't you give the Walter Payton family 1% ownership of the Bears?
Yeah.
And he didn't know that was coming, I would imagine. And I heard him squirm for about 3 or 4 minutes trying to get out of that. And he never responded to that in the way you would like him to respond. Have you heard back from him since?
No, we haven't heard anything back from the McCaskey family or anyone from the Bears organization regarding that situation. And the interesting thing about it is I was thankful and appreciative that the chairman, George McCaskey, agreed to come on the show because once the Bears were eliminated from the playoffs and their season was over with, many may know or may not know, but Chicago fan base were calling for the heads of the general manager, Ryan Pace, the head coach, Matt Nagy, people in the front office, because it was an embarrassment. It was a debacle, and we want to change. And so George McCaskey, they had their end of the season presser. He and Ted Phillips, the president, CEO of the Chicago Bears. And then they made individual media runs around the Chicago area, being on with the local sports talkers. And so we were able to be a part of that. And I was grateful and appreciative that he decided to come on. And of course, we throw out the questions. Is Matt Nagy coming back? What do you think about Ryan Pace? And we get the politically correct answers all throughout the interview for the most part. And he spent, I got to say, he spent 45 minutes on the air with us, which is phenomenal. And it's typically unheard of, to be honest with you, to have someone of his stature to be on for so long. But he gave us the politically correct answers. Oh yeah, we like what we're seeing. We're not happy with the season. Blah 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 blah. But the question that I posed him, which had been on my mind for quite some time, and I've been carrying it around for some time, and that is ownership, representation as far as minority, ownership, because the Bears and the McCaskey family simply don't have that in their front office or their board or anything of that nature. And so I always felt that Walter Payton, he is synonymous with Chicago Bears and football. And Papa Bear George Halas loved him. He just simply loved him. And of course, for those who may not be aware, Walter Payton, who passed away in 1999 unexpectedly at a very young age due to cancer, he had placed a bid to become the first minority owner, African-American owner of a football team, the National Football League. And that, of course, was the St. Louis Rams back during the time when they were in St. Louis. And he was denied by the owners because he didn't get enough votes. And Walter was simply devastated. He was literally simply devastated and crushed that after all of his contributions and hard work and dedication and loyalty and passion for the sport, that the owners turned a blind eye to his requests. And of course, he's no longer with us. So it's been sticking with me. And so I took advantage of the opportunity when George McCaskey came on. And after listening to all of this politically correct answers, I said, well, let's step out and tell him and ask him and see what he says. And initially, Gary,
Yeah.
I was looking for 24% of the Payton family to be owners of the Chicago Bears franchise, but I knew it was a little bit too far outlandish. So I said, well, let me settle for 1%. And so when I posed the question to Mr. McCaskey, to George, as you just shared, he started backpedaling and he started, praising the Payton family and the contributions of Jarrett, the older son of Walter Payton, and of course Brittany, his daughter, and Connie, his wife. And he never answered the question that, that's something that we would look into. That's a great idea. None of that. And so my job was to get that out there. And I told him in the interview, hey, listen, it all starts with an idea. You put some legs on that idea, get some people around that idea, discuss it, marinate on it, and you see what happens. And as of a week, we haven't heard anything. So I was just happy that I had the opportunity to put that question to Mr. McCaskey.
Do you think he thought, well, you ambushed me? I was not expecting this, and there's no way I could answer it with, oh, yeah, we'll give the Payton family 1%. I understand that. He can't make that decision on his own, I'm sure. But I can't imagine them. Well, here's the thing. Let me go back. This is something that they should have done on their own. I just think it's good karma. I believe in good karma. I think it's something the Bears should extend to the Payton family and say it's 0.5%. The Bears are worth, I think, $3.5 billion.
Right.
That's their value.
Right.
I don't think it's going to kill them if they give the Payton family 0.5%. Walter Payton was iconic to the Chicago Bears and to football. And they should use that as okay, the team has been crap for many decades. It's not just this last season. And they've been hemming and hawing about why it's bad and all this. But it's time to just do something that makes it all kind of feel better and just do something in this department, because the team could be crap for another who knows how long.
Yeah. Gary, that's a great assessment as far as this team is concerned. And to answer your first end of the question, I didn't take it as if he may have thought that I ambushed him, for the simple fact that he had spent 45 minutes on the air with us. And prior to coming on with us, I did ask him, is there anything that we should stay away from or you don't want to address or discuss? And it was open forum for him. So I don't think that he felt ambush. I think he was certainly caught off guard because we were going along with his Q&A as far as the politically correct answers to all the questions that we were asking. But I think he was surprised by the question in its own right. And I guarantee you, well, I can't guarantee you because my wife always say you can't guarantee, but I say 99.9% certain that he took that question back to Virginia McCaskey, Ted Phillips, to the people in place and said, we need to think about this and kind of evaluate this thing, because the great Mike Singletary just interviewed for the defensive coordinator position for the Bears this past week. So that was an indicator for me that they're thinking about this. But as far as the Payton family getting a piece of, and you're right, 0.5%. It doesn't matter if it's 0.5%, 1%. I thought 3.4% for 34, whatever the case may be. This is something that the family themselves should have addressed and made happen. They didn't. It didn't happen. I think it's a step in the right direction for them, and it's something that they seriously have to consider and think about, for the simple fact that what Walter Payton means, not only to the city, but to the sport itself, the National Football League. And when you have the Man of the Year award every year to remember, in my opinion, the greatest football player to ever lace them up, the least that the Storybook franchise could do is talk to the family and ask them. They may not even want it, but ask them. We would like to give you 1% ownership of this team.
There is no black ownership in the NFL right now.
That's exactly right. I mean, you have, I think, a minority owner, but no African American. Gary, there are 6 head coaching positions open after the season, right? There's one more job to be filled. That's down in the Houston Texans. No, none of the 6 positions that have been filled were filled with African Americans. One by a minority, but none by African American head coaches who are looking for an opportunity. So, as far as ownership is concerned, certainly there are no African American owners in the National Football League.
Let's go back to when Walter Payton wanted to get the St. Louis Rams. How qualified was he as far as what you need to own an NFL team?
Well, from what I understand and recall, he had a substantial amount of financial backers, powerful financial backers who were willing to put up the money. And of course, as we all know, at the end of the day, money talks, BS walks, as they say. But Walter Payton was positioned and had some serviceable individuals in his camp, to respectable and credible individuals in his camp, to make the push forward. Because one thing about Walter, he was always prepared, and he did not want to go down this venture without making sure that all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. He was positioned, and he felt that the package and proposal that they had put together as a team was worthy enough for these owners to vote in favor to give him this team.
And here we are 20 some years later. Has there been any other black individual who wanted to buy an NFL team and couldn't get there in the same way Walter did?
Right. No, there hasn't been any, to my knowledge, there hasn't been any other African-American businessman or interest that wanted to put up money to get a football team in the National Football League. And it's unfortunate. It scares me, Gary, the fact that it's 2021 now. We're still talking about the inequalities and racial justice and everything that's going on in this beautiful country we call the United States of America. So it's really so disappointing and sad that we still have to even discuss these topics. And when I was a kid, growing up on the South Side and watching these teams and watching Walter Payton, and then getting the opportunity to work with Walter Payton and get to know his family and Jared and Brittany, and to still see in 2021 that there's no representation or anything outside of the Man of the Year award to honor Walter Payton. To me, as a fan, as a Chicagoan, as an African American, it's almost a disservice. Yeah. It's really a disservice.
Steve just texted in and said, I think he should own 100%. His family should own 100% of the Bears. I mean, again, it's just good karma. I mean, for what he did for the Bears and the city of Chicago, it's a feel good for everybody. And I know a lot of these sports owners in all sports, it's a weird club, because I remember that Mark Cuban wanted to buy the Pittsburgh Pirates because he's from Pittsburgh, and they locked him out because they have their own little weird orbit, and they don't want anybody that's remotely not into whatever that weird orbit is in their orbit.
Yeah. And here's Gary. Here's the scary thing about all of this. Ted Phillips, who is the CEO president of the Chicago Bears, who's been with the team for 20 plus 30 years. And I understand he's a very intelligent man. He's very good with numbers and money, having gone to Notre Dame and Northwestern. But the Bears family, the McCaskey family, and the organization put more stock in Ted Phillips than they actually do the man who helped take that franchise to the next level,
to their one and only Super Bowl.
And Ted Phillips has never run the football. He's never thrown a pass. He's never thrown a block. He's never lifted. I don't know if he's ever lifted a weight, but he's never contributed on the field the way that this man, Walter Payton, has. And for his family not to be recognized, honored, and again, put a proposal together and say, hey, we want you to be 1% owners in the Chicago Bears franchise. It's almost ludicrous to me. And I do appreciate the fact, Gary, that you're keeping this going.
I just, when I heard it, Jerry, I thought, come on, it seems like a no-brainer. I know I don't have any skin in the game, but just as a good karma situation, like I said, okay, I saw this 2-part series on Tiger Woods recently. It's airing on HBO or something. And something was pointed out in this that I thought, yes. And I thought this before all of this came out, as far as Tiger and his troubles with women and all that. And when he came back to play the Masters, this thing is called the Masters in the South. Right there, you know there's something still not right.
Gary, ding, 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 ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding. You win, as we used to say back. You're the caller of the show, even though you're the host of the show. Because think of when all this started unfolding in 2020 with the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all of this. We kind of posed the question. We really didn't throw it out on our show, the Rewind Sports 60, but I asked, several people, do you think they should change the name of the Masters because it's called the Masters? And
Right.
I got the response of people kind of like frowning upon me, like, no, you can't do that. I go, but you have to understand, when this game came about, when this tournament came about, they only just recently allowed women into this country
Right.
club atmosphere, and it's called the Masters. And
Right. Tiger wouldn't even be allowed in that golf, whatever that thing is, if he wasn't a champion. I mean, they wouldn't let him have the time of day. And the other thing I noticed is when he had the scandal and he came back to play the Masters, right about 6 months after, the guy that runs that thing, he had a press conference. They said, well, this is not the way we want our club represented, and he better shape. And I'm like, and Brian Gumbel was part of this, and he said, if that was a white player who did that, they would have never publicly beaten him like that.
No.
And it's true. It's this is none of our business, a lot of that. And I know I'm kind of one off from where you're at on this, but it's just weird stuff like the Bears, who have a park district running their field.
Right.
This is
right.
an NFL team. The Chicago Park District is in charge of their field. I mean, right there, it seems like it doesn't scream success to me.
It doesn't. And again, we're talking about, a new era, and the Bears continue to practice their old way of business, and teams, organizations, they're running past them. And I give the example as far as moving into the next, century, or the next era. And you look at what happened with the Chicago Blackhawks and Papa Warts, how he ran the organization. And now most of the finances or the money that's made for the Warts family is through their liquor distributorship. So Papa Warts is like 18,686 fans come through the turnstile at the Chicago Stadium, UC, or whatever the case. He didn't care. He didn't care. If you can't watch it on television, so be it. Once he passed and Rocky took over, we see the success that the Chicago Blackhawks has had because they moved into the next realm. The Cubs did the same thing. They finally moved into the next era, and they won a championship. The Bulls are finally doing it after getting rid of John Paxson, who I love, and Gar Forman. But Michael Reinsdorf felt, hey, Dad, we got to move this thing to the next level, or we're going to lose. Yeah. And they did that. So the Bears are the only team in Chicago, basically, that are still practicing old ways of doing business, and it simply won't work, and it simply won't fly.
Well, speaking of the Bulls, they got rid of Jordan and Pippen when they probably still had at least 3 championships in them. Here's the analogy I make. That's like getting rid of Lennon and McCartney in your band. I mean, what are you doing? And here they are, 23 years later, still trying to rebuild.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole different show, Gary.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I think Jerry Reinsdorf is probably the best owner in the city of Chicago. But he has his flaws, and one of his flaws is, and I love to work for him, to be honest with you, but his loyalty to his employees. He's loyal to a fault. And that was the case with the Bulls and Jerry Krause, that he was so loyal to Jerry Krause and gave him the power to do whatever he wanted. And that's where we find ourselves today, 20 plus years later, trying to rebuild a franchise that the greatest of all time, Michael Jordan, built.
Yeah. All right. And it's 35 years since the Bears won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
35 years now. I mean, come on. Something ain't right.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I had a chance to send part of the interview to Fred Mitchell, longtime scribe, award-winning Hall of Fame journalist here in the Chicagoland area, covering all ends of sports. And he applauded me and said, thank you, congratulations, and awesome. Because he understood and understands what it means personally as far as the family is concerned in the city, but what it means as far as race relations are concerned in this country and just in this city. And it was just something that someone needed to do and someone needed to put into place. And I guess I was the guy to pitch it to Mr. McCaskey. And again, I hope that it does not fall on deaf ears.
No, so far, I don't see them all getting together. Oh, okay. How can we get that 1% to the Payton family? And I just figured after he was done with your conversation, he just went, oh, that was interesting. I'll forget about that. I hope it isn't that, but that's the way I picture the whole thing happening. Because when I see Virginia in the skybox eating the peanut brittle and the hot chocolate, she's almost 100 years old.
Yes. Yes.
Now George is what to Virginia? I don't know that whole Venn diagram of the McCaskey families.
Yeah, I think that's like the grandson.
He's the grandson to Virginia.
Yeah, I believe that's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And here this weekend we'll watch Tom Brady, who went to another team, still in the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers from a smaller city, who's a marquee Hall of Fame quarterback, still in the playoffs year after year.
Yeah. Here's the scary thing, and I pitched this to George, and again, he had a politically correct answer for it. I said, look at the Rooney family. I said Pittsburgh. I said they had 3 head coaches, and all 3 head coaches have won Super Bowls.
Right. And their current head coach is a black head coach.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And I go look at the Green Bay Packers, from Bart Starr to Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and his understudy is on the sideline. So the quarterbacking situation, they've been able to master that, but yet here in Chicago, we fall short of the quarterback. We fall short of the coaching. How do you fire an African-American coach who went 10-6, and you fire him because you wanted to go in another direction?
And you're talking about Lovie Smith. They had a black, right. It's not like they didn't have a black coach before. They had one. He's 10-6. We don't like what you're doing. Oh, you'd rather be 4-12 or 8-8 or whatever the hell you are now.
Yeah, and when I brought the record, this past year's record, to Mr. McCaskey, I said, the team finished 8-8. He corrected me. He said, no, Jerry, we finished 8-9.
Yeah.
So he was proud of an 8-9 record, indicating that they went to the playoffs. But that was sufficient for him to say, hey, we were 8-9 this past season.
Yeah.
And in my book, that's not success.
No, that isn't. Jerry, I hope you enjoyed the homage to Ohio State that Alan put together at the beginning of the show. I see you have your Ohio State stuff in the back there.
Go Buckeyes!
And your son is there now?
No. He was there. I attended the great Ohio State University back in the. I just missed the Woody Hayes days, but back in the 80s, my son fell in love with the university, and he attended in the early 2000s. God bless him. And he, once he graduated, he went on and got his master's from Northwestern University, the Kellogg School of Business. And he and his beautiful wife are happily residing, guess what, in Humboldt Park in Chicago. And Humboldt Park has changed considerably. But I said, son, you want to live in Humboldt Park?
Now, for those who don't know Humboldt Park, explain why you're saying that.
Well, Humboldt Park, again, when I was a kid growing up, we were terrified from the news coming out of Humboldt Park because of all the crime and the violence around that area. But over the years, Mayor Daley, the son, he was able to get in there and clean some things up. And of course, current mayor Lori Lightfoot is trying to spruce things up as well. So the neighborhood has considerably changed, but back when we were growing up, it was really, really a challenge just to even drive in the area, but it's changed considerably now.
All right. Jerry, we will talk down the road. If you hear from George, I'm not expecting that. Maybe you are. We'll talk again about this, but keep it going. I love the idea.
Oh yeah, we'll certainly keep it going. I thank you so very much. It's a pleasure. And if we don't hear from him, that's fine. But I truly believe, and again, with Mike Singletary getting an interview as a defensive coordinator for the Bears, to me, that's an indication that
they're thinking about it, and it's a step in the right direction. So we'll certainly keep you posted, Gary.
All right.
Thank you, and keep up the great work that you're doing.
Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it. Jerry Riles, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
Hi, Stan. I appreciate working for The Athletic, by the way. With you and Jeremy, how long had you been discussing the potential extension with him? Thank you.
The actual negotiations were recent, but this was something that was on my mind going back a few months ago, and we had a lot of stuff to work through. So it took a little time to actually get to that conversation. So it was probably more recently that we've started that, but it was something that I had thought about going back several months. And, with where we're at and certainly the direction we're heading, I felt that Jeremy's a big part of that. And it's someone that I'm excited to work with. I've had a chance to know Jeremy for a couple of years now, and, really solidified that connection that we've had. And the way that we see the game, the direction that we're heading, and what we want to focus on in the coming years, I think he's a great candidate to move that forward. And that's something that I've talked a lot about in the past is the direction that we're heading. And I think Jeremy's strength as a coach is his communication and his relationship with younger players. And that's something that we're going to need as we go forward. We're going to need those young players to take a step in their career. And Jeremy's embraced that. He loves working with them. And I think that's really a talent that he has. So it's going to serve us well.
We'll go now to Phil Thompson with the Chicago Tribune. Phil, your mic's active. You can go ahead.
Thank you very much, Stan. This is similar to what we've asked before, but given when some of your contracts expire for some of the veterans and the length of some of your younger contracts, does this all align with kind of a 2-year window for seeing what the Blackhawks can be? And then do you have a measuring stick in terms of, we need to make the playoffs by 2023 or some other measurable?
Well, I think the most important measurable is to show progress, and to show that can look a couple different ways. But in particular, we need some young players to take a step into our lineup this year, and for some of the other young players to take a step forward. So it's not just the new faces that I'm referring to. Alex DeBrincat's a young player as well. He's 22 years old, and but he's got a lot of experience under his belt. But I don't think we've seen the best of Alex. I think we're going to continue to see him evolve his game, and that's something that we want Jeremy to play a big role in. So we do have some new faces that are going to get their chance this year, starting tomorrow night. And I think the measuring stick is going to be how well do they, take charge of that opportunity, and where does it look in 3 or 4 months from now? I think if we go back to last year as an example, and we use Kirby Doc as a player, we look at where he was when he started the year in October, and then you compare that to where he was in August in the playoffs. It was a big transformation as a player. I think he made a huge improvement in that time frame, and it would be great if all of our players could take that type of a leap forward. That's probably unlikely because Kirby's a special player, but I think we can be looking for those players to play bigger roles in the coming months and years. So, that's really the goal for us, and that's something that, in conjunction with that, your team needs to then start moving forward. So I think if you have a lot of young players in your lineup and they start to progress and show that they're NHL contributors, it should translate into better performance for your team. So that's ultimately what we want and what we need. But we're trying to, right now focus on those players growing their game, and that should translate into better performance for our team as well.
We'll go now to Charlie Romeliotis with NBC Sports Chicago. Charlie, your mic's active. You can go ahead.
Hey, Stan, from the time you hired Jeremy to where he is as a coach now, how has he evolved over time, and what areas do you feel like he's really improved at over the years?
Charlie, the biggest thing I've noticed is just, more of a comfort level being here as an NHL coach. And that's something that's really hard to game plan for or to be ready for until you experience it. So as far as his actual knowledge of the game or his approach to coaching the team, that hasn't changed a whole lot. He's still got some of the same principles that guide him. But I think, when he first came onto the scene, this was new for him. A lot of these buildings he'd never been to before. He'd never coached against these other coaches. And you can try to simulate that in your mind, what it would be like to go up against another team. And, you watch that coach on television, you see how he runs his bench. But until you actually get on the bench and you're coaching against them and you're seeing how they, use their personnel, I think that's something that he's gotten some more reps there. And I think he's more comfortable with that. And as a result, he's able to do things better than maybe in the first year or something like that. So I think his actual coaching knowledge of, what he wants our team to do, that hasn't really changed a whole lot. Like, he's got his principles and that he believes in and that he teaches. But I would say his knowledge of the league, just through his experience, he's lived it. He's been, around the league a couple times over. So now he knows what to expect. And it sounds like it's a small point, that how much would that really matter? But I think it's actually an important thing. And now, I feel like his comfort level is higher, and it's certainly going to help moving forward.
Thank you.